Firestarter 2022 is directed by Keith Thomas and stars Ryan Kira Armstrong, Zac Efron, and Michael Greyeyes. A young girl tries to understand how she mysteriously gained the powers to set things on fire with her mind. Based on the Stephen King book of the same name, which I have not read, and also a remake of the 1984 film, which I literally just saw Thursday before seeing this film, and thought that it was just okay. My overall anticipation for this film was pretty minimal. I thought the trailers looked interesting, and I'm a Stephen King fan myself whenever it comes to his on-screen adaptations, so I'm always going to be interested in another one. But the problem is that apart from the initial premise, I honestly wasn't seeing that much to really look forward to in this film. Especially seeing the 84 version and thinking that movie was just okay. A lot of good acting, but overall, just kind of boring. My anticipation going into the theater Friday morning, I was just like, I don't know about this. And coming out of the theater, oh boy, this was bad. Oh, I mean, it was really bad. Bad, not even in a good way. Bad, not even in a hilariously awful way. Just plain, bland, boring, bad. Okay, so before we get into all of that, was there anything worthwhile in this movie? Well, if I'm being honest, the acting from everyone isn't terrible. I don't blame them necessarily for what I will get into when I get into the bad stuff, but for the most part, everyone does a decent job and the best that they can give with the script they're given. Especially Ryan Kira Armstrong, which I never like to bag onto child stars because even the most experienced actor has to put a lot of faith in their director. And if their director is giving awful direction, the performance is more than likely going to be awful. And with an inexperienced star, it's going to be an even worse performance. And that's why I feel that most child actors don't give the best performances in film. And honestly, Ryan Kira Armstrong in this film does fine. She does pretty much as well as all the other actors in the film. If the script and the direction was better, I would honestly say that this was one of the best child performances ever. But because of the things that we'll get to in the bad stuff, her decent performance is nothing noteworthy. Also, the score. The score in this movie was done by John Carpenter, so you know the score is going to be all synth heavy and all awesome. I will admit that. The score, best part about the movie. And honestly, even that compared to all of the other music composed by John Carpenter is not noteworthy either. Alright, so with that said, let's get into the bad stuff, starting with the script itself. Oh my god, this might be one of the worst book-to-screenplay adaptations of a Stephen King work since The Dark Tower. The dialogue is just so boring. No one talks like a normal person, and they all speak with so many dramatic one-liners that every word out of their mouth sounds more like a trailer line rather than something a real person would say. And because of that, not only is the script laughably bad at times, but it also sours a lot of, in my opinion, what made one of the best things about the 84 film, the acting and the chemistry between the cast. In the 84 film, I believed all of the character connections. I believed that this was a real father and daughter. I believed the connection that the daughter gained with the hitman in disguise. I believed all those connections, and it made me like the characters and like the performances even more. I didn't believe a single person in this movie. I didn't believe Efron and Armstrong were father and daughter for a second because they have so much animosity with each other other, and rarely any single soft or sweet moments where they're allowed to connect. Michael Greyeyes, while admittedly a much better casting than the very whitewashed George C. Scott, is so bland and boring in the movie that any motivation that he has with the criminal organization that is this film's main antagonists, you don't get and you don't buy for a second. And he has such little personality, just like every single other person in this film. Not to mention that the movie itself is just ugly to look at. Everything is so dark and dreary, with no single shot in this entire movie that is appeasing to look at. And everything, every single time a character speaks in this movie, it is all close-ups. Close-ups to the point where most of the dialogue is just filmed with half of the character's face in the frame. That's how close they are to the camera. And where my biggest problem with the '84 film was that at times I thought it could be a bit too boring, this movie is so horribly rushed. The movie feels like it's fast forwarding through so many scenes so many times that it is just another factor that adds to the fact that you do not care about any single character because there's not much time to develop their connections. And any time with them is so dark and depressing that by the halfway point of the film, I was just in my seat, just completely annoyed by the fact that this movie needed to lighten up. It was honestly hilarious how much it was trying to take itself so seriously to the point where any single joke that could possibly be written into the script felt taken out. Guys, there's not much else I can say for this movie. This film was awful. Apart from the admittedly cool score and halfway decent performances, this movie is just a struggle to get through. The pacing is so rushed and obviously edited down. The direction and cinematography makes the film ugly to look at. The script is hilariously self-serious. And because of all of that, you don't care about the characters in the slightest, and any goodwill to be given to the actors is soured. This might be one of the worst Stephen King films ever made in the fact that I can't even imagine watching it as a guilty pleasure. Of course, Firestarter 2022 gets an F. Well guys, thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments down below, on the exact other end of the spectrum, what's your favorite Stephen King film? For me, despite the fact that Stephen King pretty much disowns this film, The Shining is not only probably my favorite horror film ever made, but is definitely one of my all-time favorite movies ever made, period. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are the best. And don't forget to click subscribe and click the bell icon down below to stay up to date on all things movie, all things TV, all things nerd.